I'm of the mindset that everyone should know a little about cars. I've always been mechanically inclined, and I think that may have saved me. I was using dating apps a few years ago. I met this guy. He seemed super nice. We talked for a few weeks before I was willing to meet up with him. His dad owned a local gun store where I would go get my target stuff. I used to be in a women's league for competition shooting, so I had seen this guy around and had a decent impression of him, but I wanted to be safe. He invited me to a concert at a local town site. It was a concert I really wanted to go to, and I figured that it would be safe since it was at a well-known place with a lot of security. I let him pick me up because he had talked about mechanics and cars, and he wanted to show me his Mustang. He bragged about how well he kept it running and how he babied it. I was into time trial racing at the time, so I was interested to see what he had done. He picks me up and we start heading to the event. Right before the exit, he says his car is acting funny. I was watching the dash, and if you've been racing, you know our cars and trucks usually have extra accessories. Whether it's aftermarket racks and gauges or switches, there's usually something aftermarket inside of the car. There was nothing extra. The car felt like it was shifting correctly. There was no shudder or noise, nothing to indicate any problems. I was like, that's weird. And all I said was we should try and limp it to the concert venue. It's less than a mile away, and it's better than being stuck on the I-15. He agrees and drives us very carefully the last mile. We get to the concert and things were okay-ish. He kept watching me and buying me drinks. I refused to drink, so every time he gave me one, I would make up an excuse and go to the bathroom and flush it. He kept making comments about how well I was handling my alcohol. I was super uncomfortable. The concert ends and it's time to leave. For context, this concert happened at the local reservation town site, and at the time, the res did not have great cell service, so I couldn't get a hold of anyone to come get me. I decided to bite the bullet, and I talk him into taking the old highway instead of the 15. It sounds silly, but when you take the old highway, even though it's slower, people are more willing to stop and help you than they are on the freeway. I figured if he was having car troubles, it would be safer, and we wouldn't have people flying by us at 80 miles per hour. We made it halfway between the town site and our town, and he says that the car is acting funny again and pulls over. I'm stone cold sober and didn't notice anything wrong, so I get out of the car to check it with him. He starts making comments about how I'm drunk and I should wait in the car, and that it's safer because you can't trust drunk Indians, especially with a little girl like you. This dude had no idea that I'm actually native and I just had an albinism. The hair on the back of my neck are standing up, so I checked my phone. I just barely have service and I started texting my dad. As I'm walking away from the engine compartment, I noticed that he was watching me, so I started acting like I was trying to get cell service to get help. Out of the corner of my eye, I watched this man take the spark plug wires off the distributor cap and switch the order. Your spark plug wires connect to the distributor cap based on the order your cylinders fire in, so doing that will either make the car run terrible or not even turn on. I managed to send my dad a picture of what he's doing, and my dad tells me to start walking. As I go to walk away, this guy gets back in the car and opens his glove box, which exposes a pistol he had. He tells me not to worry and we will be safe. I probably broke a world record for how fast I was texting my dad. He says to start walking and tell the guy that he is on his way and that our friends live up the road. So I do. I start walking with a purpose and take off as quick as I can. The guy is yelling after me, and I yell back, "The wind is too loud and I can't hear you. I'll be back with our friends." I'm scared out of my mind. We are 10 miles out of town with no one around. The closest road actually led to a cemetery, so there's really no one here to help me. I get a really bad feeling the farther I get from the car, so I turn around and look. The hood is closed, his lights are on, so I decide to hide in the farm irrigation next to the road. I keep walking towards town and text my dad what's happening. I hear a car slowly come up from behind me, and I see a flashlight, so I press against the side of the ditch and wait for it to pass. Once I can't hear it anymore, I crawl out and just kind of keep walking along the weeds. My dad texts me that he sees me, so when he pulls up, I run to the truck. As we make it towards town, we pass the dude, and he's got like 3 cop cars around him. My dad tells me not to worry about what happened. I heard through the grapevine later on that he had been charged with violent crimes in the past, and that he had been arrested that night for concealed carrying without a permit. The police never talked to me, but I haven't seen that guy in town since. If I didn't have experience with cars and I didn't know what he was doing, I could have been dead in that ditch instead of hiding. Most communities have where you can take basic car care and maintenance courses. I highly recommend everyone takes them and at least knows the basics. This dude knew that I knew cars, but his whole goal was to get me so piss-ass drunk that I wouldn't realize what was happening. So let's not meet again, fake car troubles guy. This happened years ago, but the thought of it still keeps me up at night. I was walking through the hills of a provincial park with my dog during the winter, so the sun set much faster than I expected, and before I could get back to my car. Once the sun was gone and all you could see was darkness, I was walking slowly through a field, when out of nowhere, I had, to this day, the most gut-wrenching, undeniable feeling I was being watched. I turned around, and in the distance, I saw a figure standing there, darker than the night sky around us. The instant I saw him, my stomach dropped, and my body literally froze. I knew in that moment, somehow, he was coming for me. I grabbed my dog's leash, and we book it. I mean sprinting, full speed up and down hills, around trees, down embankments. I was running so fast as if my life was dependent on it, and to this day, I'm sure it was. So I make the 30 to 45 minute trip in 10, and all that stands before me and my car is this switchback you have to go back and forth up if you want to reach the top. So once again, I'm giving it all I got, running up this switchback as fast as I possibly can. And once I reach the top and look back down, who else but this person chasing me? And does he go up the switchback like how any sane person would? Of course not. He starts sprinting right up the middle of this goddamn switchback, headed straight for me. I scream at him, "Fuck off!" And he doesn't say anything, not a single word, just continues running right at me. I'm so lucky my car was at the top of that hill, because as I ran towards it, just like in the horror movies, I dropped my keys and am fiddling with them, trying to open the door. Just in time, I get the door open, I throw my dog in, and I shut the door behind me just as this guy reaches us. Best part is, there was no other vehicles parked anywhere around us, but where did this person park? Yeah, right next to me, of all places. Now, this guy literally jumps into his truck so fast, and to this day, I have never seen a better example of speeds out of there like a bat out of hell. He guns the engine so hard, black smoke is blasting out of the back as he swerves out of there, leaving skid marks behind him. I sat in the back of my vehicle for hours afterwards, shaking and crying, knowing I was this close to whatever he had planned for me. And that's why I'm sharing this story, in hopes that people won't ignore that gut feeling, the little voice in the back of your head that tells you to run. If I did that day, I never would have noticed him in time and would not have had the head start I needed to escape. Always trust your gut feelings and intuition. It might really be the deciding factor in if this is your final day on Earth or not. When I was 6 or 7, I had an awesome best friend who lived in the apartment complex right across from me. She and I used to go roving around on adventures, helping the older folks in the complex get around, etc. It was the 90s and a small town, so our hard-working single moms didn't worry too much if we were off the bus before they got off work. They told us to always stick together, don't talk to strangers, stay close to our section of the complex, and to never go to the playground at the top of the hill by ourselves. Naturally, being 6 to 7 and 8 to 9, we were pretty obedient until one day when they were way later than usual. We were bored out of our tiny noggins and thought it would be a brilliant idea to hike the massive hill and go play on the playground. So up we went, and all was well, at least for a few minutes. My spidey senses started tingling, and when I turned around, there was a man standing there. He didn't look creepy or anything, just a normal younger dude wearing a burgundy sweater and khakis. I looked around to see if he had brought his kids up or something, but I didn't see any. I grabbed the swing I had been pushing my friend on and made it stop, whispering to her that there was a man behind us. She looked behind us and stood up quickly.
"It's okay. You two can keep playing,"
he said in a very soft, quiet voice. My friend spoke up. "Nah, we're just leaving anyway." She grabbed my hand and we began to walk away.
"If you want, I have a jungle gym across from my apartment. We can go play there,"
he said, moving closer to us. We backed away, still hand in hand, both of our red flag sensors going wild.
"I like watching you two play. You're very pretty."
He continued moving in longer strides. We booked it, taking off down the hill at breakneck kid speed. We looked behind us to see him chasing us, and we both started screaming. A little more than halfway down the hill, we saw both of our moms standing by their cars talking and smoking when they heard us. They immediately started sprinting to us. Apparently the man realized who they were, and he started taking off across the vast parking lot back to his apartment. Our mom scolded us something fierce and explained to us that what happened was the exact reason that we were to never go that far from our neighbors ever again.